The Knicks have made their move, or perhaps more accurately, the move was made for them. Malik Beasley, the sharpshooter everyone has been buzzing about, has made it clear he is not going to accept the veteran minimum. And Stephen A. Smith, speaking on his program, didn't hesitate to emphasize that point. He said in English, very directly, "Beasley is not some discount shooter you can just scoop up for pennies on the dollar. The man shot over 41% from 3 last season on volume. You don't just let that kind of weapon sit on a vet minimum. Somebody is going to pay him, and the Knicks simply don't have the money to be that team." And that right there is the heart of the situation. New York had interest. They kept tabs. They were waiting to see if somehow the market would play in their favor. But Stephen A. reminded everyone that the NBA is full of contenders desperate for perimeter shooting. He pointed out that teams like Miami, Oklahoma City, and even Brooklyn are sitting there with more financial flexibility than New York, and each one of those organizations knows exactly how valuable a player like Beasley can be in a playoff environment. As Stephen A. put it, "You think Pat Riley down in Miami is going to let Beasley sit there if he can get him? You think Sam Presti, with all those young guns in OKC, wouldn't jump at the chance to add that kind of shooting? Please." That's why New York never had the leverage here. The Knicks can try to sell opportunity, a starting role, the chance to compete for an Eastern Conference Finals run. But Stephen A. hammered home the reality. Money talks, and New York just doesn't have it. He said it plainly. All they've got is the vet minimum. That's it. And Beasley's camp knows he can get more, so why in the world would he settle for less? And so, like it or not, the Knicks are forced to pivot. Whether you want to frame it as a decision or a reality they were backed into, the Malik Beasley sweepstakes are over for New York. That brings us to the next point Stephen A. raised, and this one is fascinating. He said the Knicks are already shifting gears, focusing their attention on another proven veteran, Malcolm Brogdon. And the way Stephen A. broke it down was clear. Brogdon is a former 6th Man of the Year. He's not some scrub. He's somebody who, if you get him at the vet minimum, even with the injuries, that is highway robbery. That is a steal. Stephen A. acknowledged the concerns fans have about Brogdon's durability. He didn't shy away from it, but he contextualized it. You're not asking him to play 35 minutes a night. You're not asking him to carry the franchise. You're asking him to back up Jalen Brunson for maybe 20 minutes a game, stabilize the second unit, hit a few shots, play smart defense, and make sure the offense doesn't fall apart when Brunson is off the floor. If that's the role, if that's the expectation, then Brogdon can absolutely deliver. And that's the exact kind of perspective the Knicks front office is operating with. Beasley priced himself out. Fine, move on. Stephen A. framed it perfectly. New York isn't desperate. They're not going to overpay. They're disciplined, they've stayed patient, and they know that depth at guard is critical if they're going to keep pace in the East. That's why Brogdon's name is now on their radar, and according to Stephen A., it's a move that makes all the sense in the world. Stephen A. Smith didn't sugarcoat it when talking about Malcolm Brogdon. He flat out said in English, "Look, aside from the injury concern, you can't tell me anything else negative about this man's game, because there's nothing else to say." And he's absolutely right. If you go down the list of qualities you want in a veteran guard, shooting, playmaking, defense, leadership, Brogdon checks every single one of those boxes. Stephen A. emphasized the point by comparing him to other names floating around this free agency market. He admitted, is his shooting as elite as Malik Beasley's? No. But is he a better overall player than somebody like Landry Shamet? Absolutely. And that's why the Knicks are right to have him on their radar. Stephen A. went even deeper into it. He explained that Brogdon doesn't just give you spot-up shooting, he gives you intelligence on the floor. He gives you the ability to handle the ball, control pace, initiate offense when Brunson is resting, and on top of that, he's a guard who plays real defense. In today's NBA, that combination at the vet minimum is almost unheard of, and Stephen A. hammered home that exact point. If New York pulls this off, that's a steal, period. A player like Brogdon for the vet minimum is one of the best value signings in the league. Now, the conversation naturally shifted to other options, And Stephen A. didn't avoid Landry Shamet's name either. He brought him up, acknowledging that the Knicks are clearly considering him too. Shamet is a known commodity, a floor spacer, a role player who has proven he can knock down big shots in playoff moments. Stephen A. pointed out that Shamet has bounced around the league, playing for several different contenders, yet his role has always been the same: spread the floor, hit timely shots, and stay ready when the moment calls. That kind of consistency, even in limited minutes, is exactly the type of skill set that New York could use to stabilize its bench rotation. And Stephen A. explained why that makes sense for New York. He said, "If you miss out on Beasley, which the Knicks are going to, because Beasley's not taking the vet minimum from anybody, then you look at guys like Shamet, who can fill that role. He's not Beasley, but he's a shooter, he's reliable, and he'll accept the deal that New York can actually give." Stephen A. made it clear that while Shamet may not bring the same level of scoring punch or athleticism, he does bring professionalism, the willingness to embrace a role, and the ability to deliver under pressure without needing a high volume of touches. On Malik Beasley, Stephen A. was crystal clear. He's gone. He's not signing for the vet minimum. He knows his value, he knows the market, and someone like OKC or Miami, teams that have the money and are legitimate contenders, they're going to give him what he wants. New York can't do that. He doubled down on the idea that Beasley is firmly out of the Knicks' financial range, pointing out that the veteran guard had one of his most productive seasons shooting the ball and is not in a position where he has to settle for a minimum contract. He even floated the idea that Beasley might end up back with Detroit, depending on how their cap flexibility shakes out. The Pistons, Stephen A. reminded, could still be active in the market and have the type of cap maneuverability to make something happen if they feel Beasley fits their direction. But the bottom line was the same. The Knicks are out of that race. As Stephen A. emphasized, Beasley's market will take him elsewhere, and New York's front office knows it. That's why pivoting to more realistic options like Shamet is not just logical, it's necessary if they want to shore up depth without compromising their financial flexibility. That leaves the front office with two very real, very practical options: Malcolm Brogdon or Landry Shamet. Stephen A. said he leans toward Brogdon because of the versatility and the higher ceiling, even if the injuries make you nervous, but he also made it clear he wouldn't be mad at Shamet either. Between the two, I'd take Brogdon, but if you want Shamet instead, I can't argue too hard. Both guys can help. Both guys fill a need, and both are miles better than standing pat and doing nothing. And that's the real point he drove home. New York doesn't need to overthink this. They've already lost out on Beasley. Ben Simmons? That's not happening. So what's left is simple. Add Brogdon or Shamet, get value for the vet minimum, and make sure this roster has the depth it needs to compete in the East. So Knicks fans, that's where things stand right now. Stephen A. made it perfectly clear. This isn't a franchise stumbling around anymore. The Knicks are sitting in a strong position. They're showing patience, and whichever way they decide to move, it's going to be a calculated decision that fits the bigger picture. Whether that means Malcolm Brogdon, with his steady hand, playoff experience, and ability to guard multiple positions, or Landry Shamet, who provides that quick trigger from deep and helps stretch the floor, the front office is weighing every angle carefully. Stephen A. stressed that these aren't just names being tossed around for headlines. These are players who fill specific needs, and that's why this discussion matters. Brogdon would give the Knicks a secondary ball handler and defensive toughness, while Shamet would add spacing that's always crucial in today's NBA. Both represent different kinds of help, but both fit into the vision of building a sustainable contender. But as always, the conversation doesn't end with Stephen A. It shifts back to you, the fan. This is New York, after all, and every move sparks debate. Who do you trust more in crunch time wearing orange and blue? Would you lean toward Malcolm Brogdon's poise, leadership, and two-way consistency? Or do you value Landry Shamet's ability to instantly shift the geometry of the floor with his outside shooting? Stephen A. gave his perspective loud and clear, but the Knicks' future is always going to be a dialogue between the team and its fan base. So I'll leave it with you. What's the smarter move? What's the next step for this organization that's finally turning the corner? Tonight on SportsCenter, the story coming out of New York has the potential to reshape not only the Knicks' immediate future, but the entire Eastern Conference landscape. We're talking about blockbuster trade chatter, rotation shakeups, and a possible franchise-defining gamble, all centered around Zion Williamson. Now, reports tonight confirm that the Knicks have quietly begun exploring the possibility of a move for Zion. And what makes this different from empty rumor mill noise is that multiple insiders have confirmed New York is indeed positioning itself to strike if the Pelicans even slightly open the door. And here's where I want to bring in Stephen A. Smith, who on his program earlier today didn't mince words. He flat out said that this is exactly the type of swing the Knicks have been waiting for, because, in his words, when healthy, Zion Williamson is one of the most unstoppable forces in basketball. Stephen A. pointed out what everyone has seen when Zion is right: the unmatched athleticism, the brute force around the rim, the efficiency that warps defenses and creates lanes for teammates. He reminded viewers that Zion doesn't just play the game, he changes its geometry. And Stephen A. emphasized that when you already have Jalen Brunson leading this team, adding a healthy Zion could give the Knicks the kind of 1-2 punch that makes opposing defenses miserable on a nightly basis. But at the same time, Stephen A. didn't sugarcoat the concerns either. And as the narrator here, I've got to echo that. Health is the elephant in the room. The only thing keeping Zion from fully realizing his potential in New Orleans has been availability. And this is exactly why his name keeps surfacing in trade talks. According to reports, some inside the Knicks front office believe Zion could be the missing piece that transforms them into legitimate title contenders. But they're not blind to the risk. Financially, this is not a small move. Stephen A. made it clear that under the new CBA rules, adding a player of Zion's salary level is a massive commitment, not just in dollars, but in how you can operate as a franchise. The second apron, as Stephen A. called it, ain't just about money. It handcuffs you in trade, in free agency, in roster construction. And the Knicks are already tight after the Bridges extension and other off-season additions. Still, the potential payoff, Zion in Madison Square Garden, paired with Brunson and Julius Randle, is the kind of upside you just can't ignore. Stephen A. reminded everyone that New York has been searching for that guy, the next superstar who can truly elevate them. Brunson has been phenomenal, and Bridges has been critical, but Zion brings an entirely different dimension: brute force, downhill athleticism, a presence that bends defenses in ways no one else on the Knicks roster can. And let's be honest, as Stephen A. said, the Knicks have been waiting for a superstar of this caliber for decades. You put Zion in the Garden, and suddenly everything changes. The reward is clear, but so is the risk. Making this move would almost certainly cost New York part of its depth, and the Knicks have built their identity around balanced contributions from players like Mitchell Robinson and their bench rotation. That's the trade-off: a proven core of depth and development, or a bet on a generational talent whose health history is still uncertain. At the end of the day, the Pelicans control the situation. If they decide to shop Zion, the Knicks are positioned to pounce. And as Stephen A. framed it on his show, this isn't just about chasing a star. It's about whether the Knicks are finally ready to stop playing it safe and make the kind of bold, calculated gamble that could deliver a championship window. Because in this league, staying on the middle ground gets you nowhere. You either go all in or you get left behind. As we continue breaking this down, the biggest question surrounding Zion isn't about talent, it's about availability. Stephen A. Smith, on his show earlier, made this point crystal clear. You can't ignore the elephant in the room. Injuries have been the recurring storyline in Zion Williamson's career. One wrong commitment to a player with his health history can handcuff a franchise for years, and that's exactly why the Knicks front office is moving with extreme caution. Up to this point, they've done everything right. Locking in Bridges on a below-market extension, keeping Jalen Brunson happy with a smart contract, and maintaining depth without jeopardizing financial flexibility, that's disciplined roster management. But adding Zion? That tests discipline like nothing else. Here's the flip side that Stephen A. emphasized repeatedly on his show. Zion Williamson is only 25 years old. That's right, 25. In basketball terms, he's still entering the window, where his best seasons could very well be ahead of him. Stephen A. didn't hold back when discussing the implications of this for the Knicks, pointing out that while the risk is real, the potential reward is monumental. The organization recognizes that too, and they see a very narrow but enticing window of opportunity if the Pelicans are willing to reshape their roster and make Zion available. This isn't just a hypothetical. The Knicks have been carefully assessing what it would take to acquire him, weighing draft capital, current player contracts, and the balance of long-term stability versus immediate impact. Now, let's paint the picture, just like Stephen A. did, because it's impossible to overstate how dangerous this could be. Imagine a front court with Julius Randle sliding to the 4, Zion occupying the 5 in small ball lineups, and shooters spread around them. That alignment isn't just strong, it's nightmare fuel for every defense in the Eastern Conference, as Stephen A. put it. Offensively, defenses wouldn't know whether to collapse on Zion, rotate to contest Randle, or respect the spacing from perimeter shooters. The floor opens up for cuts, drives, and kick-out threes in ways that could completely change the Knicks' offensive identity. And defensively, with Tom Thibodeau's schemes paired with Zion's rare combination of strength, explosiveness, and athleticism, the team could cover weaknesses elsewhere while turning nearly every transition opportunity into a high-percentage chance. Zion's ability to dominate the paint, combined with Randle's versatility, could create matchups that are virtually impossible to counter. But, as Stephen A. emphasized, nothing comes without a cost. Acquiring Zion wouldn't be a simple swap. It would likely involve multiple first-round picks, possibly 2 or more rotation players, and a very careful reconfiguration of the roster to ensure the team maintains financial flexibility under the CBA. This is where the philosophical question comes into play. Do you risk disrupting chemistry that's been built over multiple seasons to make a massive swing for a generational talent? Or do you stay the course with a roster that is already projected to be among the top contenders in the East? Stephen A. didn't shy away from pointing out the stakes. This isn't just about talent. This is about judgment, timing, and the ability to calculate risk on a level few front offices can manage. One wrong move here and you compromise years of work. FanDuel's latest odds reinforce the delicate balancing act. New York is sitting right behind Cleveland and Oklahoma City in the title race at Powell's 1850. That's elite company, and Stephen A. highlighted this point. The Knicks are already in a strong position to contend, so adding Zion could instantly elevate them into the absolute top tier of the NBA. But, and this is a big but, if injuries persist, and we know Zion's career has been punctuated by them, the consequences could set the franchise back years, potentially erasing the momentum they've painstakingly built. Stephen A. called it a high-stakes gamble that could define a decade, stressing that this is the type of decision where the rewards are enormous, but the risks are just as massive. Every draft pick, every player included in the deal, every dollar committed would have to be measured, calculated, and strategically aligned with both immediate championship aspirations and long-term flexibility. In essence, what Stephen A. was driving home is that the Knicks are standing at a crossroad. They can either swing for a transformational talent in Zion Williamson, knowing full well the risk of injury and financial strain, or continue building steadily, maintaining the chemistry, and betting on internal growth from players like Brunson, Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. The decision isn't just about acquiring a star. It's about defining the identity of this Knicks franchise for years to come. And that, according to Stephen A., is why every move, every calculation, every phone call in the next few months will be under intense scrutiny. The window is there, the potential is there, but so are the stakes. Enormous, career-defining stakes that could alter the Knicks' trajectory in ways fans have only dreamed about until now. And that's why this isn't just another trade rumor. This is a franchise-defining decision. The question for Knicks fans is simple but monumental. Do you roll the dice on Zion Williamson and go all in for a potential championship? Or do you stick with the blueprint that has already brought growth, smart contracts, and sustainable development? Stephen A. said it best. This is why basketball is about risk and reward. The Knicks are perfectly positioned to make a move that could change everything, but it has to be calculated. Every pick, every contract, every roster spot matters. As this situation unfolds, the pressure on New York's front office is undeniable. Every move is analyzed through the lens of championship aspiration. The balance between Mitchell Robinson's elite rim protection and offensive sparks from potential additions like Malik Beasley could define how this roster performs when it counts. Depth and versatility have become critical in an Eastern Conference that has never been more competitive, where even minor adjustments can swing playoff matchups. Defensively, Robinson provides a foundation that few players can replicate, protecting the paint while maintaining mobility. That presence alone shifts the dynamics of a series, especially against teams with physical front courts or rim-attacking strategies. On the offensive end, adding a sharp shooter like Beasley creates spacing, opens lanes, and provides exactly the kind of versatility that has eluded the Knicks in previous postseason runs. Stephen A. reminded viewers that every next move now sets the tone for the Knicks' identity. This isn't just about filling a role. It's about defining what New York wants to be in the years ahead. With trade rumors like Zion Williamson constantly swirling, the urgency to solidify a clear, championship-ready identity becomes even more pressing. Every decision now shapes the future. And in the NBA, the margin for error has never been smaller. Knicks fans are watching. The front office is calculating, and the next chapter could be the most pivotal in recent franchise history. The Knicks are changing their plans in free agency, and Stephen A. Smith went off about it. At one point, everything was about Ben Simmons. That was the story. That was the headline. That was the pursuit. But now, according to Stephen A., the Knicks are pivoting because the reality of the situation has changed. He said, "You don't chase a player like Ben Simmons if the conditions aren't right, if the fit isn't perfect. The Knicks have to stop gambling with their future and start being intentional with every roster spot they fill." And that's exactly what's happening here. The conversation has shifted. New York is now targeting a shooter. We finally have a new free agency update. At this point, everyone already knows the Knicks have been eyeing Malik Beasley. But Stephen A. pointed out that this isn't as simple as it looks. "Ladies and gentlemen, you can't ignore the facts," he said. "Malik Beasley's name is still tied to a federal gambling probe. I don't care how you dress it up. If you're still a subject in an investigation, you're still a risk, period." And he's right. According to Front Office Sports and NBA Central, Beasley is no longer considered a target in the Eastern District of New York's probe, but he remains a subject. That means his conduct is still under review, and charges remain possible. His own lawyers have acknowledged this. Now, the Knicks and Cavaliers have both checked in on Beasley. Knicks executive Gerson Rosas even has history with him. He signed Beasley to a 4-year, $60 million deal when he was running the Timberwolves. But Stephen A. hammered this point. You're the New York Knicks. You're not in a position where you can afford to play around with potential headaches. If you bring in Beasley and something goes left, it's the Knicks that take the hit. It's the Knicks that look foolish. That's the truth. And even beyond the legal risk, money is an issue. The Knicks only have the veteran minimum to offer. Other teams, like the Pistons, can offer him significantly more. So even if Beasley clears all investigations, the financial side makes this difficult. Stephen A. framed it like this. If Detroit or another team is willing to pay him real money, why in the world would he take the vet minimum with the Knicks? You can't count on that. So if you're New York, you better have a plan B. Actually, scratch that. You better have a plan C, D, and E too. And here's where the Knicks are pivoting. According to James L. Edwards of The Athletic, the Knicks are looking to explore all options, and their focus has shifted. Instead of just looking at guards with ball-handling skills, they're now prioritizing shooting. Stephen A. emphasized why. When you look at this Knicks roster, there's toughness, there's defense, there's size, but what you don't have enough of is perimeter shooting. The league is about spacing. It's about creating lanes for Brunson, creating outlets for Randall, creating balance on the floor. You can't do that without reliable shooters. So who are the new targets? According to Edwards, several names have been linked to the Knicks at the veteran minimum: Alec Burks, Monty Morris, Malcolm Brogdon, Seth Curry, and DeLon Wright among them. Stephen A. didn't mince words about this list. Seth Curry? Listen, I know he's not Steph, but the man can flat-out shoot. You can't tell me the Knicks wouldn't benefit from someone who can spread the floor like that. Alec Burks? He's been here before. He knows the Garden. He knows the fans. Malcolm Brogdon? Injury concerns are real, but if you get him healthy, that's a veteran presence with poise and stability. The bottom line, according to Stephen A., is this: the Knicks cannot afford to miss on this. Every move counts. Every roster spot counts. And if Leon Rose is serious about positioning this franchise to contend in the East, then he better not waste time or money on the wrong guy. The days of throwing darts at the board are over. The Knicks need precision. They need shooting. They need the right kind of talent at the right kind of price. And that's where things stand. The Knicks started this summer looking at Ben Simmons. Then they turned to Malik Beasley. But with his situation murky and the money not adding up, the Knicks are now recalibrating. They're shifting their eyes toward proven shooters, veterans who can come in, hit shots, and help this team immediately. Stephen A. summed it up best. This ain't about making a splash. This is about making sense. And if the Knicks want to take the next step, that's exactly what they need to do. Make sense. According to James L. Edwards, and now confirmed by other insiders, the Knicks are zeroing in on names like DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet for that last roster spot. And Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back when reacting to this. He said, "Listen, if you've done your homework, if you've evaluated your roster correctly, then you know the smartest thing you can do is keep players who have already proven they can perform under the bright lights of Madison Square Garden. These aren't hypotheticals. These are known commodities. They've been here. They've done the job. And yet, they're flying under the radar." Christian Winfield of the New York Daily News backed this up, reporting that the Knicks have indeed looked hard at familiar faces. And that, according to Stephen A., tells you everything you need to know about where the front office's head is right now. The Knicks aren't chasing dreams here. They're chasing results. This is about shooting. This is about spacing. This is about finding pieces that actually make sense with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. Period. And that's why Seth Curry's name has entered the conversation. Stephen A. pointed out, you can say what you want about his defense. You can say what you want about his size, but what you cannot say is that this brother can't shoot. Seth Curry is one of the most accurate three-point shooters we've seen in the modern NBA. He led the league at 45.6% last season. That's not good. That's elite. That's the definition of knocking shots down when your number's called. Now, yes, Seth Curry's volume wasn't huge, just 2.7 attempts per game, but Stephen A. stressed this point. You don't need him to take 10 threes a night. You need him to come in, give you 15 minutes, and stretch the defense. That's invaluable. And guess what? He's been over 40% from deep in 6 of the last 7 years. That's not an accident. That's a career. But of course, the Knicks can't just ignore the weaknesses. Defense with Seth is a problem. That's where Landry Shamet comes in. Shamet gives you a balance. Solid shooting, solid defense, nothing spectacular, but reliable in both areas. And DeLon Wright? Different skill set. Not a great shooter, but he brings defense and toughness. Stephen A. framed it like this: you want balance on a roster. You want to be able to throw different looks at different opponents. That's what wins playoff series. So don't sit here and tell me that the Knicks don't need a DeLon Wright type just because he doesn't light it up from deep. He brings you something too. And then, of course, there's Ben Simmons. Stephen A. did not mince words. Ladies and gentlemen, if Ben Simmons really wanted to be in New York, he would be in New York already. The Knicks want him. They'd sign him right now if he said yes. The fact that he hasn't, That tells you everything. New York is not his first choice. Hell, it might not even be his second choice. And we're supposed to sit around waiting for him? No, absolutely not. The Knicks have to stop waiting on players who don't actually want to be here. That's why new names keep emerging. That's why Malcolm Brogdon makes so much sense. Injuries? Yes, that's real. But Stephen A. stressed the upside. When this brother is healthy, he's a floor general. He can run your offense. He can hit shots. He can defend. He checks every box you need at the guard position. And if you can get him on a one-year veteran minimum, that's not a gamble. That's a steal. And until Simmons shows any genuine desire to wear a Knicks jersey, the team is moving on. The priorities are clear. Shooters first, ball handlers second. That's why you keep hearing the same names. Landry Shamet, Seth Curry, Alec Burks. These guys fit the needs today. And let's not forget the bigger picture. According to FanDuel, the Knicks are a near lock to make the playoffs. Their odds to qualify sit at minus 7,000. Minus 7,000! Stephen A. lit into this too. That means Vegas, the odds makers, the analysts, everybody believes the Knicks are not just good, they're a lock. You don't get those odds unless people are confident. So don't sit here and tell me the Knicks need a superstar to survive. That's nonsense. They're already good enough to be a playoff team. What they need is that extra piece to help them advance further. And that's where this final roster spot becomes crucial. Stephen A. put it bluntly. The Knicks aren't trying to make the playoffs. They're trying to make a run. They're trying to contend. And every little move matters when you're in that position. According to FanDuel, it is basically a guarantee. The Knicks will be in the postseason this year. Minus 7,000 odds. That's not a projection. That's not a maybe. That's the odds makers telling you the Knicks are as close to a lock as you can get in this league. And Stephen A. Smith was quick to jump on this point. When the odds makers, when the analytics, when the insiders are all saying the same thing, that's not smoke, that's reality. The New York Knicks are a playoff team, period. End of discussion. Now, yes, that last roster spot is still out there. But let's put this in perspective. Stephen A. framed it like this. That signing? That's not about survival. That's not about whether the Knicks are going to be relevant or not. They already are. That move is the cherry on top. That move is icing on the cake. It's the kind of addition that can take you from being really good to being legitimately dangerous. And he's absolutely right. If the Knicks land the right vet on a minimum deal, whether it's a Malcolm Brogdon, a Landry Shamet, or even a Seth Curry, that's not just about filling a hole. That's about strengthening the foundation of a team that's already built to win. Stephen A. made the case clearly. You don't need stars at every position. You need depth. You need versatility. You need role players who know their job and execute it without hesitation. That's what playoff teams do. That's how you win the East. That's how you make it to the final. And remember, last season ended with disappointment. The Knicks didn't finish the job. They fell short of where they were supposed to be. This season, Stephen A. emphasized, is about rectifying that mistake. This year is about redemption. This year is about taking the next step. You've got the core, you've got the chemistry, and now you've got the opportunity. The Knicks owe it to themselves, to their fans, and to the city of New York to make sure they don't waste it. So, Knicks fans, here's the real question. Who do you want with that last roster spot? Because whether it's shooting, playmaking, or defense, the Knicks are going to be in the postseason. That much is a lock. But the right addition could mean the difference between a second-round exit and an actual run to the final. And I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which name makes the most sense to you? Brogdon, Shamet, Curry, or somebody else? Because like Stephen A. always says, it's one thing for the front office to make moves. It's another thing entirely when the fans demand accountability. And Knicks fans, you deserve answers. Now, that's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed this breakdown, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Knicks coverage all season long. Until next time, Knicks fans, take care of yourselves, your families, and each other. Because trust me, this season in New York is about to be special. Peace. Guys, I was watching First Take earlier today, and Stephen A. Smith absolutely went off about the New York Knicks and this latest move they just pulled off. And let me tell you, he didn't mince words. He said, "The New York Knicks are making moves that most fans don't even recognize as important. But trust me when I tell you this, these little moves, they matter. They matter a lot." Stephen A. started by breaking it down like this. The Knicks went out and made a move involving undrafted rookie Dink Pate. They acquired his returning player rights from the Mexico City Capitans in exchange for the rights to Buoy. Now, the casual fan might look at this and say, "Why should I care?" But according to Stephen A., this is Leon Rose thinking 2-3 steps ahead. He said, "The Knicks have mastered using the G League as a farm system for their main roster. They've done it before with guys like Matt Ryan and Landry Shamet, and now they're doing it again with Dink Pate. Why? Because they understand flexibility. They know they've got 3 two-way contracts to play with. Kevin McCullough Jr.? That's one spot. James Inaji? Probably another. Mohamed Diawara? He's most likely getting that second-round rookie exception. That leaves 1 two-way spot open. Who do you think that's going to?" Dink Pate, ladies and gentlemen, Stephen A., went on to explain that the Knicks didn't have to make this move, but they did it because they believe in this kid's potential. And if they don't sign him to that two-way contract immediately, they still hold his G League rights. That means he stays in Westchester, developing under the Knicks system. Stephen A. said it best. This is smart business. This is Leon Rose being patient and thinking ahead. Because if Pate turns into something in the future, guess who benefits? The New York Knicks, and they'll have him at a bargain. Then Stephen A. got animated. He said, "Let me be very clear. This kid is only 19 years old. He's long, athletic, and he showed flashes during Summer League that make you stop and say, wait a minute, this boy might be able to play." He averaged nearly 10 points, over 6 rebounds, almost 3 assists, shot 40% from the field, and, get this, 50% from 3. In his best game, 20 points, 10 boards, 4 threes, and 2 blocks. That's no fluke. That's talent. Stephen A. also reminded everyone that Pate skipped his senior year in high school to join the G League Ignite back in 2023. That tells you something about the level of confidence and ambition this kid has. He's been playing against grown men in a developmental system designed for NBA talent. And then he wrapped it up with this. This is not some blockbuster deal. This is not going to change the Eastern Conference tomorrow. But these are the moves smart organizations make. These are the moves that separate the good teams from the great ones because they're always thinking ahead. Leon Rose deserves credit for that. So Knicks fans, don't sleep on this. Dink Pate might not be a star now, but if he develops the right way, this could be one of those moves you look back on and say, that was genius. So there you have it. According to Stephen A. Smith, the Knicks front office is out here playing chess, not checkers. They're setting themselves up for long-term success. And if Pate becomes what they think he can be, the Knicks just made a very smart investment in their future. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you of something Stephen A. Smith said earlier today. This kid, Dink Pate, is not just some random prospect. We're talking about the youngest professional player in U.S. history. 17 years old when he went pro, breaking the record previously held by Scoot Henderson. That's not something you ignore. Stephen A. brought up the fact that this move comes just weeks after the Knicks signed him to an Exhibit 10 contract for Summer League, and what did he do there? He flashed potential, he showed growth, and Stephen A. made it very clear. You don't take chances on a kid like this unless you see something special. Now, let's be real for a second. The shooting numbers? They're not pretty. A career 38% from the field on 9.3 attempts, 24% from 3 on about 3 attempts per game, and 5% from the free throw line. Horrendous? Yes. Stephen A. even admitted, that's bad. No excuses for those numbers. But here's where he dropped the hammer. He's 19 years old, for crying out loud. You think he's a finished product? Absolutely not. What I saw in Summer League is that he's improving. He's trending upward. And if he keeps that up, the Knicks would be fools not to lock him down on a two-way deal. Stephen A. then laid out the roster math. The Knicks have 3 two-way slots. 2 of those are essentially locked. Kevin McCullough Jr. and James and Najee. That leaves one spot, and in his words, if that final two-way deal doesn't go to Dink Pate, it's a damn mistake, period. I don't want to hear any excuses. Give this kid the contract. It's low risk, high reward. Two-way contracts don't cost you anything in today's NBA, so what are we even talking about here? And Stephen A. wasn't done. He made it clear that Mohamed Diawara deserves the rookie exception spot. No debate, no conversation. But when it comes to that last two-way, it better be Pate, because if it's not, somebody in that front office needs to explain themselves to me on live television. Then the conversation shifted. Stephen A. started talking about expectations for the upcoming season, and oh, he went in. Another season, another NBA Cup. The Knicks are not just participating this time, they're a legit threat. According to FanDuel, OKC is the favorite at plus 450. The Knicks, they're sitting right behind them at plus 550. That's how real this is. The Cavs are next at plus 600. Everybody else? Long shots. When it comes to Group C, it's not even close. The Knicks are 130 to win the group. The Bucks are a distant second at plus 410, and then you've got the Heat, the Bulls, the Hornets. Please, this is the Knicks' group to lose. Stephen A. finished by saying something every Knicks fan needs to hear. Cap space is tight, moves are limited, but that's why these little transactions matter. That's why a move like acquiring Dink Pate's rights is genius. It costs nothing. The upside is huge, and this is how you build sustainable success. Leon Rose? He deserves praise for this, because it's moves like these that win championships, not just the splashy blockbuster. And then he teased us all. Don't think for 1 second Leon Rose is done. Oh no, there are more moves coming, and I can't wait to see what they pull off next. Knicks fans, stay tuned, because if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss something special. So there it is, straight from Stephen A.'s perspective. The Knicks are not only setting themselves up for the NBA Cup with favorable odds, they're also stacking the deck for the future. And Dink Pate? According to Stephen A. Smith, this kid might be a long-term steal if New York plays it right. And listen, guys, before we wrap this up, Stephen A. said something that really stuck with me. At the end of the day, the Knicks have put themselves in a position where even their smallest moves carry big implications. That's what smart front offices do. They prepare, they plan, they position themselves for flexibility. And right now, Leon Rose and this organization deserve some respect for that. Now, I want to know what you think. Do you agree with Stephen A? Siege, do you believe Dink Pate deserves that last two-way contract spot? Or do you think the Knicks should use it on somebody else? Because I'll tell you this, Stephen A made it clear, if this kid keeps trending upward, if he gets the right coaching and development, he could go from an under-the-radar prospect to a legitimate rotation piece. That's how success stories are written in the NBA. Stephen A also reminded us of something crucial. The Knicks aren't just playing for today, they're building for tomorrow. And that's what a real contender does. You stack assets, you develop talent, and when the time comes, you cash in. That's exactly what Leon Rose is doing right now. It's not flashy, it's not going to break the internet, but it's effective. And that's why the Knicks are positioned to win, not just this year, but for years to come. And don't forget, expectations for this season are sky high. The Knicks are favorites to win their NBA Cup group. They're in the top tier of odds for the entire tournament. Cap space is tight, options are limited, which means every move, every single decision matters. Moves like this one with Dink Pate might not make headlines today, but trust me, they could pay massive dividends down the line. So, Knicks fans, I want you in the comments. Let me know, are you riding with Stephen A on this? Do you see the vision Leon Rose has? Do you believe in these incremental moves as much as the big splashes? Because this front office, according to Stephen A, is out here playing chess, while everybody else is playing checkers. And guys, if you enjoyed this breakdown, do me a favor, smash that like button, drop your thoughts below, and of course, subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. We've got plenty more content coming your way, and you don't want to miss it. Until next time, Knicks fans, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and take care of each other. Because trust me when I say this, if Leon Rose keeps making moves like this, we might just be talking about the Knicks in a whole different light come playoff time. Peace.